The stranger at the edge of the dome, the morning sky above the colony, felt quiet, like it was hiding something in its silence. The kind of silence that makes a person pause in the middle of a step and wonder what is coming next. Ely walked down the metal path that led to the edge of the dome, his boots tapping against the steel floor with a slow, heavy rhythm. His hands were stained with grease from working all night inside the power core. He was tired, his back ached, but something pulled him toward the outer barrier of the dome. Something strange. Dome rose around the colony like a glass shield, stretching up and around, glowing slightly with blue energy. Beyond it, nothing but red soil, wide plains, and dust storms that moved like slow ghosts across the horizon. He reached the end of the path and looked out, just like he always did every morning. But this time his breath caught in his throat because someone stood there just beyond the shield, a figure, not a human patrol, not a trader from another colony, not a supply drone, just a figure standing still, her hair flowing like strands of silver in the wind, skin glowing like soft moonlight, eyes bright like two stars in the dark. She raised her hand slowly and placed her palm against the invisible barrier between them. Elia stepped closer, heart beating louder each second. His hands shook without reason. There was something about her face, something that felt familiar. Then her lips moved, and he heard her voice through the speaker. Grid Humandant, you remember May was your childhood friend. Eli froze. The wind outside the dome howled, but inside everything felt still. He stared at her eyes, at the soft curve of her jaw, at the way she tilted her head, just a little like she always used to do before speaking as a child. No, this was not possible. He took a step back, then a step forward again. Memories flashed like broken glass, laughter under old trees, running through long grass, chasing light bugs, a girl with a small scar near her eyebrow saying, I will never leave you, not even in the end. But that was on Earth, and Earth was gone, buried under fire and smoke and silence. The guards at the tower noticed the figure. Alarms began to ring across the dome, sharp and red and loud. Voices shouting, unidentified life form, step away from the dome. This is a restricted area. But she did not move. Her eyes remained locked on Eli. He moved his lips, but no sound came out. Her voice came again, softer now, but clear. I searched for you for so long. I crossed the stars for you. They said you were gone or changed or lost forever, but I knew I would find you. You do remember me, right? Tell me you remember. His name echoed in her tone like she had spoken it 1,000 times in silence. The guards arrived with weapons raised, ready to fire stun beams if she tried to breach the dome, but she stood calm, quiet, unafraid. One of the officers reached Eli, asked what happened, who she was, why she was speaking like that. Eli could not answer. His eyes remained fixed on her face, that face not fully human, not fully alien, something in between. She looked different, yes, but he could see the girl inside, the glow, the same warmth, the same sadness in her smile. The guards ordered her to surrender. They opened a panel in the dome to let out a temporary capture drone. She stepped back only slightly and spoke again. You made me a promise, remember? You said we would stay together no matter what, and I believed you, even when they took me, even when they changed me, even when they told me humans forget everything. I never forgot you, not once. The drone flew out, whirring in the air with blinking lights, ready to scan and tag her, but she did not resist. She raised both hands in peace. Eli watched her lower her head like she knew what was coming. He felt a sharp pull in his chest, not fear, not confusion, not even disbelief. It was something deeper, a thread from the past snapping awake. His voice finally came out, rough like sand. What is your name? She looked up, smiled with eyes full of galaxies, and said Lena. That name hit him like a storm. The drone wrapped around her arms gently but firmly. Guards moved in, preparing to bring her inside the dome for testing, and holding Eli wanted to stop them, to shout, to ask questions, but his feet would not move. Only his eyes followed her as she passed through the airlock. She did not fight. She did not cry. She only looked back at him once and gave a look that said, please remember me. Please do not let them turn you away from me. As the dome sealed again, the alarm faded, and the wind outside swallowed the silence where Eli Stood alone, heart racing, mind spinning. He did not know what was real, what was memory, what was dream. But he knew one thing for sure, that girl, that alien, that glowing figure from the red dust. She knew him, and something in his soul knew her too. Even if the world said impossible, even if time and space and species said no, his heart whispered yes, and it refused to stay silent any longer. A voice from the forgotten earth inside the central facility of the colony. The walls stood cold and bright, humming with quiet energy, lights blinking across control panels, voices moving through coms, as if nothing had changed. But for Eli, everything had changed. He stood near the observation room, watching through the glass as Lena sat inside, calm, quiet, her silver hair falling over her shoulder, her glowing skin dimmer now but still beautiful in a strange, unreal way. No one else seemed to recognize her voice. No one else seemed to feel the weight of her words, but Eli could not stop thinking Lena. That name rolled through his mind like a forgotten melody. The science team moved around her, scanning, testing, talking in sharp, flat tones, asking questions. She never truly answered. She only kept saying the same thing again and again. I came here for Eli. He's my friend from long ago. We were children together on Earth. Eli stepped away from the glass, moved down the long hall, his thoughts heavy, each step harder than the last, his boots loud on the floor. But no one paid him much attention. In his small quarters, he opened the old digital chest in the corner, something he had not touched in years. It held records from Earth, fragments of childhood logs, blurry photos, broken files. He searched through the mess, hands shaking, breath held tight. Somewhere in that forgotten pile he hoped to find something. Anything, a picture, a note, a name. His fingers stopped on a thin data chip marked Haven Project. He paused, heart thudding faster. He plugged it into the small wall terminal screen, flickering to life after a pause. Lines of files opened, memories hidden in silence, children born during war, raised in hidden shelters, tested, protected, trained. Names appeared on screen, pages of lost faces, old audio logs, broken video clips. He searched his own name, found it connected to another. Lena, her file opened slowly, revealing medical scans, notes, behavior reports. One note caught his eye, written in calm medical tone. Subject 27. Lena shows strong bond with subject 19. Eli prefers his company, refuses to be separated. High emotional reaction when apart, suggest long-term pairing for stability. Eli leaned back, eyes wide. Something inside him cracked open. Memories began to rise, not like pictures, but like feelings. A cold room filled with metal beds, a girl with soft laughter holding his hand during storms, secret talks under old blankets, dreaming of the sky beyond the walls. Remembered her voice calling his name in fear during evacuation, calling out his soldiers pulled them apart. He remembered screaming for her then. Nothing, blank until now. His legs moved on their own, carrying him back to the observation room. But the guards at the door blocked his path. They said the subject was under restricted observation. They said protocol must be followed. They said emotional interference would confuse results. Eli stared at them, eyes firm, voice steady. I am not asking permission. I am going in. The guards looked at each other, then stepped aside, unsure but unwilling to argue further. Inside, Lena looked up the moment he entered, her eyes filled with something deep, something like hope, but wrapped in sadness. Eli sat across from her, hands resting on the cold table. No words at first, only silence shared between two pieces of a broken past. Do you remember now? She asked, voice soft but clear. He nodded slowly, unsure of what he was feeling. Too many things at once. I saw the files, he said. I saw the project log. You and I, we were part of it. She gave a small smile, the kind that holds pain. They called us subjects, but we were just children trying to stay warm in a world that had no space for us. Eli felt something tighten in his chest. Why did they separate us? Why erase everything? Lena looked down, fingers tracing the edge of the table. Because they feared the bond, because they knew we were different. Not just human, not just alien, but something in between, something they could not control. She looked at him again, eyes glowing a little more now. They let you live as a normal human because you looked like them, acted like them. But I changed faster. I became what they feared. So they left me behind. They sent me to the outer colonies, said I would be safer there, but I never stopped thinking about you. I searched the old records, tracked colony movements, traced names until I found yours. Eli stared at her, not knowing what to say, not knowing how to feel. A part of him wanted to believe every word, and a part of him wanted to run, but he did not move. He stayed. What do you want now? He asked, voice low but steady. I want you to remember me, she replied. I want you to know you were never alone, even when they erased your past, even when they told you to forget. I remembered for both of us. She reached across the table, not to touch but to offer something invisible yet strong. He did not take her hand, but he did not pull away behind the glass. The scientists watched their monitors. The guards shifted, but did not speak. The moment felt too old, too full of something ancient and unspoken. Eli finally spoke. Again, why now? Why come back after so long? Because time does not change promises, Lena said, and you made me one. Said we would stay together, even if the stars broke apart. Eli felt the memory rush back, his own voice, as a child, small, scared, but full of fire. I will never leave you, not even if the world ends. And now here she was. World had ended and she was still here. Eli leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. I don't know what happens next, he said, but I believe you. That is enough, she whispered. For now outside the room, alarms remained quiet, but in Eli's heart something loud had begun again, something that had waited a lifetime to wake. Hidden truths and buried hearts. The sky above the colony turned darker than usual, clouds thick and heavy, like something was building far beyond the metal dome, something that could not be seen but could be felt in every corner of the place. Eli sat alone inside the archive chamber, a place rarely visited by anyone. Now shelves of digital records lined the walls, blinking lights showing endless rows of locked files, forgotten projects, hidden truths. His fingers moved fast over the screen, unlocking layers of old data, his heart racing each time a new file opened. The name Project Haven came again. This time he found files that were never supposed to be read by regular staff, files marked with red alerts, warnings about genetic changes, memory removal, psychological bonds formed during early development. Eli kept reading. It was all there. The experiment that children, the bond between subjects created to see how far emotional connection could survive, even under separation, even under manipulation. His and Lena's names were there again, underlined, tag noted, with special attention. The bond between them had been labeled too strong, too unpredictables. Though they were separated for the safety of the mission, her memories allowed to grow, his memories locked. Awele leaned back, hands over his face, the truth too heavy to carry. Outside the chamber, colony lights flickered as systems began checking for anomalies. Something had triggered the early warning sensors near the communication tower. Meanwhile, Lena remained in the containment room, but not as still as before. She sat near the corner, her eyes closed. As she focused on the sounds around her, the hum of the walls, the steps outside, the faint rhythm of Eli's heartbeat. As he approached, he entered without a word, sat beside her, both of them quiet. For a long moment they could hear each other breathe. You found it, she said gently without looking at him. He nodded, his hands gripping his knees, eyes on the floor. They tried to delete you from my mind. They almost did, but you came back. Lena turned to face him, her expression soft but unreadable. Because I never stopped carrying you inside me, even when the others gave up, even when I changed. You were always there, in the way I smiled, in the way I spoke, in the way I dreamed. Eli looked at her, his voice low like the wind outside. You are not like them anymore. You are something else now, not just human, not just alien, something more. Lena gave a small nod, her fingers brushing over her own arm, watching the faint glow shift under her skin like liquid light. I was born human, just like you, but the changes started after. They took me away. They used alien tech to heal us, to enhance us, to make us strong enough to survive what was coming. And I changed faster than anyone expected. They feared what I might become, so they isolated me, told me to forget. You said I would adapt, but I didn't. He waited. I learned, and when I was strong enough, I ran all the way here to find you. Eli felt something heavy and warm in his chest, a feeling he could not name, something like pain mixed with hope. He stood, walked to the window, stared out at The red horizon, they won't let you stay here, he said quietly. Think you are a danger. Lena stood beside him, her reflection glowing faintly in the glass. I know, that is why. I need you to remember who we were, because only you can speak for me, only. You can stand between me and the ones who would lock me away forever. Outside the building, more guards gathered. Drones hovered near the towers. Orders were being issued silently through the Kamsali turned to her, eyes full of something clear and sharp. Then we don't wait. We find a way out before they decide for us. Lena raised one eyebrow, the edge of a smile on her face. Till the same boy who used to sneak past curfews to explore the tunnels. Ailey gave a small laugh, his first in days. Still the same girl who dared me to jump off the roof into the lake. And you did, she added, with a broken arm and a proud grin. They moved fast through the back corridors, Eli using his clearance codes, Lena moving silently with eyes sharp like she could see through walls. Each hallway felt colder than the last. Alarms still quiet, but tension rising like water filling a room. And inch by inch reached the underground lab where old transport systems were stored, machines that once connected colonies across the ruined sectors of Earth. Most were broken, but Eli had repaired one months ago just for practice, just to feel useful. Now it was their only chance. As he powered up the controls, Lena watched the door, her body tense, her senses stretched far beyond human limits. They are coming, she said, voice calm but sure. Not many yet, but they will follow. Eli worked faster, fingers moving over controls, lights blinking one by one as systems came alive, engines humming deep below the floor. He looked at her once more. You trust me, right? Lena nodded without pause. I trusted you before I even knew what trust meant. Door behind them slammed open, voices shouting, guards moving in. Eli pulled the lever, the transport pod opened, and they jumped in as the door closed behind. Then the sound of motion filled the tunnel. They were gone before the guards could stop them, racing through the dark toward a future full of unknowns. But together, for the first time in forever, together, the escape through memory and fire. Darkness filled the tunnel as the transport pod raced forward, its lights cutting through thick layers of dust and silence, old rails shaking under the pressure, engines humming like distant thunder deep underground. Eli sat with both hands gripping the control handles, his face pale, his eyes focused, sweat moving slowly down his forehead. The tunnel was long forgotten, once used to carry supplies between distant colonies, now left broken by time. Lena sat beside him, eyes closed, breathing steady, but inside her mind everything moved fast, every sound, every shift in the metal, every pulse of energy around them. She felt it all, as if the tunnel itself whispered secrets to her. Did not speak at first, their silence heavy, but not empty. It held memories, it held choices. Finally, Eli broke the silence, voice soft but full of meaning. Did you know? I used to dream about a silver light in the sky every night for years. I would see that same light and feel safe, like someone was watching over me. Lena opened her eyes, looked at him with something like warmth and sadness mixed into one. That was me. I used to send signals toward Earth, just soft ones, hoping maybe you would feel something, even if you didn't understand. I nodded slowly, eyes still on the tunnel ahead. I think I did. The transport shook hard as it moved past a damaged section, the lights flickering, shadows dancing along the cracked walls. Eli checked the scanner, reading signals. Ahead, one exit point close, one more chance to get out before the next section collapsed completely. He turned to her, voice steady again. We have to stop at the old launch bay, just beyond this tunnel. From there, we can climb up and reach the edge of the canyon. Lena studied his face for a moment, then nodded. That place used to be full of ships before the fall. Maybe one still works. Eli gave a faint smile. Maybe one still dreams of flying. They shared that smile for just a moment before the scanner beeped. Movement behind them, fast, multiple heat sources closing in. They have sent drones, Lena said, her voice calm, but her body already preparing for what might come. How fast can they move? Eli asked while adjusting speed. Fast enough, but not faster than our will. The pod neared the launch bay, broken lights hanging from the ceiling, dust covering every inch of metal. The tracks ended here. Eli pulled the lever hard, and the pod screeched to a stop, sparks flying around them. They jumped out quickly. Lena looked up at the remains of the old shipyard. Steel bones of fallen vessels stretched across the dark wide space, some half buried in dust, some tilted, some open like giant broken hands reaching for the sky. Eli climbed toward one that still had a closed hatch. Maybe this one. Help me open it. Together they pulled hard metal, grinding against metal until the hatch gave way, a sharp hiss escaping from within. They stepped inside, darkness swallowing them, but Lena's hands glowed just enough to light the way. Old controls, dead screens, shattered chairs, still holding the shape of long gone. Pilot Seeley dropped his tool bag, started working fast, bypassing systems, rerouting energy, pulling power from the emergency core. Lena stood guard at the hatch, her eyes fixed on the opening, scanning for movement. The hum of machines returned slowly, one system after another waking up after years of sleep. Engines coughed, lights flickered, control panels lit up with dull orange. It might fly, Eli whispered, breathless, but not far, maybe just enough. The sound of drones filled the bay, metal wings slicing air, red lights flashing through the dust. They are here, Lena warned, voice steady, eyes sharp. By me 1 minute, Eli shouted while adjusting stabilizers and aligning the controls. Lena stepped outside, hands raised, eyes glowing brighter than before. Moved like a shadow through fire, her body bending around beams of light, dodging blasts, moving faster than any drone. With a wave of her hand, one drone fell crashing to the ground, its systems scrambled by the pulse she sent from her palm. Another came close. She jumped over it, spun midair, and landed without sound, sending another pulse that shut it down. Eli yelled from inside. Now she turned, ran toward the ship, leaped through the hatch just as Eli activated launch mode. Engines screamed, fire burst from beneath the old ship as it lifted, slowly shaking from years of dust and damage. The bay shook behind them as more drones arrived too late. The ship pushed forward, out through the broken roof, into the open air for the first time in years. Eli saw the sky without glass between him and the stars. Wind hit their faces as the ship flew low over the canyon walls, dust trailing behind like a ribbon of fire inside the ship. Lena sat down, breathing hard, her glow dimming just slightly. You saved me again, she said, without looking at him. Eli kept his hands on the controls, voice quiet but full of something strong. We saved each other always, but danger was not over. Fuel low, system damage growing. The ship would not hold for long. Eli checked the map, one small ridge ahead with signal towers, maybe a safe place to land, maybe someone friendly, maybe Noth. Turned to Lena, we might have to run again once we land. I'm ready, she said, her hand resting near his. Are you? He nodded, no fear in his eyes. Only purpose. I remember enough now to know this is where I belong with you. She smiled, and for the first time since she arrived, he saw that same smile from childhood, the one that held no fear, only trust. Ship began to descend, engines slowing, metal groaning under pressure. Below them the land waited, and whatever came next, they would face it together. The final choice. The old ship hit the ground with a heavy shake, sliding across the rocky ridge, engines giving out one final burst of fire before they went silent. Thick clouds of dust rose around it as metal scraped against stone. Sparks flew from the broken sides, and the ship finally stopped halfway, tilted between sky and earth. Inside the cabin, Eli pulled himself up from the floor, his shoulder bruised, his head spinning but still clear. He turned toward Lena, who had already stood, eyes steady, body glowing again with quiet strength. She reached out, pulled him to his feet, her touch light but firm like it always had been. They stepped outside together into the cold wind air, dry and sharp. The ridge stretched wide before them, with broken towers scattered across it, once a hub for signal work. Now just ruins and echoes, but someone had been here recently. Footprints near the rock path, lights flickering faintly in the tower up ahead. They moved quickly, feet crunching over dust and wires. Each step forward filled with the sound of their own breath, mixed with distant hums from machines still clinging to life after so many years. At the base of the main tower, Eli found a power console buried under rubble. He pushed away loose metal, wiped the panel clean, and placed his hand on the scanner system. Recognized access granted. The door opened with a slow creak, revealing a narrow hallway lined With blinking lights and old screen security cameras watched them silently. Lena glanced around, voice low but sure. We are not alone here. Eli nodded, his hand near the small sidearm he had taken from the escape pod, not to fight, but to warn if needed. Inside the tower they found a control room filled with dust and data, the screen still alive showing movements of drones, colony signals, weather patterns across the planet, and on one screen, a live message blinking in red: search unit, deployed, subject still active, escape confirmed, high alert. They know we are alive, Eli said while scanning the files. Lena stood near the window, eyes locked on the horizon, where black dots began to move like ants across the sand, fast and coming straight toward the ridge. We have minutes, maybe less, she said, calmly, not with fear, but with acceptance. Eli opened a storage unit. Inside were flare guns, communication gear, old uniforms. He tossed a jacket toward Lena and spoke with urgency. We can hide in the underground tunnels. Just for now, wait till they stop searching. Lena shook her head slowly, her voice gentle but full of decision. Running again will not end this. They will keep chasing us. They will never stop unless the truth is spoken and someone listens. She stepped toward the main terminal, connected her wristband to the port, her glowing skin sending pulses into the system. What are you doing? Eli asked, moving closer, worried. I am sending everything, our memories, the files from Project Haven, the records of what they did to us, who we were, who we are. Eli looked at the screen as files began to transfer across channels toward open networks across the colony. Truth was no longer hidden. He watched the images flash by children in labs, hands held under stars, of separation experiments wrapped in cold reports, and one picture of two small kids sitting on the floor, laughing, surrounded by books and drawings. One boy, one girl, both lost then, both found now. The ground shook, drones closing in, the sound of engines louder than before. Lena turned to Eli, her voice steady like a river. They might still take me. They might not believe. They might call me a threat. Eli stepped forward, eyes strong, voice stronger. Then I will stand with you, because if they call you a threat, they call me one too, and I am done hiding. She looked at him for a long moment, then smiled, a small soft smile that only he had ever known. Together he nodded. Always. Outside the tower, the first drone arrived, hovering just above the entrance, scanning with red lights, weapons armed. Eli walked out first, hands raised, voice loud and clear. Do not fire, we are unarmed. I am Eli from Colony 12. I carry truth behind him. Lena stepped out, her glow clear in the sunlight, her presence calm, her body no longer hiding who or what she was. She stood beside him, proud and still. Voices from the drone speaker ordered them to surrender. Eli raised his hand, showing the band. We already did. We surrendered to truth. We shared it across every channel. Your leaders have it now. Let them read, let them decide. But we will not run, not again. Silence followed. Then more drones arrived, but none fired, none moved closer. Instead, a voice came from above, from one of the larger crafts now hovering in the sky. This is Central Command. Your transmission has been received. You will be taken in for review, but you will not be harmed. Eli turned to Lena, who stood like a flame that refused to burn out. He reached for her hand and she gave it freely, fingers locking like a memory made real as the craft lowered and the doors opened. They did not step back. They did not shake. They walked forward, side by side. Their story no longer hidden, their bond no longer broken. They had crossed time and fear and space to find what had once been torn apart, and now they would face whatever came next, together, not as subjects, not as secrets, but as two souls who remembered what others forgot too. Hearts that chose to believe again, and a world that would finally have to decide whether to fear the unknown or to understand it. The end.